I'm not as scared of Canterbury now as I was maybe 6-7 weeks ago.
Their team, their roster, and trying to force this Sean Darcy in the ruck. And it just feels like every time he's there and playing, the team doesn't play well.
Because you guys are going to crash out, and all of a sudden you crash twice and Max is up on second place's arse again. And it's
Welcome back to Ahead of the Game. It's SportsPezJez and Tux Sports Takes from bets.com.au.
bit rusty, mate. Too many vinos in the south of France,
mate. Still clinging on.
Can't talk.
To the
still slurring.
Exactly, still clinging on to it. But we are from bets.com.au. We write sports previews. You can check them out over at bets.com.au, completely free. All the main sports, NRL, AFL, racing, motorsports. What else? Everything. Anything you can think of is there. It's good.
Yeah, pretty much. Anything worth writing about is there.
Today, SportsPezJez, we're going to do a bit of a return to the old days of Ahead of the Game and do a bit of a recap of the weekend, but also look forward to the future.
That's what you do when you look forward. Mate, you're on fire today, hey? You started. It's going to be an absolute cracking episode. I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah. So we're going to hit three different things. First up, NRL, the Canterbury Bulldogs. I'm asking the question if they're cooked. Have they peaked too early? Then we're going to talk about Freo, and they're on the outside of the top 8, and they're looking in danger of missing the finals again with a stacked team. And then round it all out with some Formula One and the conundrum that McLaren are faced with in the second half of the Formula One season, the Norris versus Piastri battle. But, Jez, let's get started. In the NRL, the Canterbury Bulldogs, have they peaked too early?
Peaked. I think, I don't know, I'm going to say yes. I'm going to say then if we're just hitting it black and white, I'm not as scared of Canterbury now as I was maybe 6-7 weeks ago. I think purely, I don't know, they're a little bit out of order. I want maybe throw the big call. Like, you put it all on Gus, how they've built their team. They had a settled team. And then all of a sudden, Gus brings in Lockie Galvin mid-season. And I don't want to rant on the Lockie Galvin thing. I think everybody is tired of it already. I'm tired of it. But I think it really showed, I don't know, it peaked what has happened, and bringing in Lockie Galvin and bringing in a playmaker that's hungry and a playmaker that's going to be good in the future. He's good. He's got good size. But at this time of the year, when you had a system that was working, they were like unbeatable, the Bulldogs. And now, last week, you see them make some mistakes. The Burton-Galvin combination with Burton's your core, and you're making a decision this week to move him to the centres because you've got Lockie Galvin there and you've got Toby Sexton there, but you put him out of position. You've got Galvin trying to pass to Burton out of position. And I don't know how many drop balls there was in that game with that combination going south. Like it disrupted them. They're not playing their percentage game anymore. They're not playing that grind, win territory, force your opposition to play from inside their 5. There was too many drop balls, too much good field position, and they let Brisbane back into that game because they're trying to get more attack. And that's not what they've built their game on. And I think that just destroys everything that you're afraid of Canterbury, because you're gonna get chances where before you didn't get chances to score.
No, exactly. And I think that they will learn to gel as time goes on. But the question is whether the rest of the team can figure it out and whether they can stay at that elite level, both in attack and defense primarily, for the rest of the season. Just now, they're third on the ladder. They have 11 wins, the same as the Storm. Both the Storm, the Bulldogs, and the Warriors have all had their 3 buys. Canberra, in first position, 14 wins, only have had 1 bye. So you'd almost say the Raiders lead. There's still quite a few games left. Anything can happen, but the Raiders seem to be in that kind of upper echelon and then it's a fight for the rest of the top 4 spots.
Mm.
You look over to the last 5 games for the Bulldogs and you compare it to their season. The season stats, they have won 6 of 8 games. Well, I don't know how to put it. Their wins, put it this way, their wins, their margins, 11 wins, 6 of them 13 plus, but only one of those has come in the last 5 games. Their margins are a lot closer. They're 1-4 against the spread in their last 5 games compared to 8-6 on the season. So their last 5 games, and maybe the betting summary wasn't the best one to pull out. The point summary is probably more telling. First on the season in points conceded, only 17.1 points per game. Over their last 5, they're 8th, 20.4 points per game. Winning margin, again, it's dropped. Points scored went from 6th on the season to 12th in their last 5. So everything you've kind of just said about when they've brought in Lockie Galvin, I think it is around that 5-game period now that he's been there. They've just kind of fallen off a cliff. And now they enter into a run, which I think is probably the hardest run home of any team in the league. They're matching up against the Cowboys, the Dragons, the Sea Eagles, Tigers, Warriors, Roosters, Storm, Panthers, and Cronulla. Now, of those teams, the Cowboys and the Sea Eagles, even the Dragons and the Tigers to some aspect, they have a chance to make the 8. A very real chance at this point in the season. If you got the Dragons 4
I
weeks
think
later...
you're stretching with the Tigers, but I think definitely... I think, yes, they got a chance, but they don't have a chance. I think the Dragons are a genuine possibility.
The Tigers have a chance to get a home final still. Put it that way. And especially the way they played on the weekend against the Roosters, if they turn up like that, put Jerome Luai back into the fold, mate. The thing is, if the Dragons and the Tigers, if you get them 4 weeks later, then their season's probably already over. So they're not playing for a spot. But you get them in this spot here, Dragons in round 20, they still have a chance. Yeah. So they're going to be fighting, going to be a lot tougher to play in that spot. And then you look at the last 5 games of the season: Warriors, Roosters, Storm, Panthers, and the Sharks. The Sharks potentially playing for a final spot in that last round. And this kind of rhetoric around resting players in the last round as well. You don't want to go into finals with no momentum. You don't want to be losing to Cronulla because you've had to rest players or because Cronulla have had to play for their lives, and you're going into the finals. Maybe you're in a top 4 spot or maybe you're not, and you've lost the last game or last 2 games of the regular season.
Yeah, they are. They've put themselves in a really tough spot by have they lost? Is it 3 of their last 6 or something like that? But anyway, I think it's all just disruption. It was just the wrong time to bring someone in, and just I think the different way heading into each game. All right, it's almost like you're forcing to get him on the field. It's like put him in strange positions. You're mucking around with Reid Mahoney as your hooker, bringing Toby Sexton in at hooker, Reid Mahoney out. Like, you're doing that one week, and then the next week Galvin's playing in the halves with Burton, and then the week after he's playing in the halves with Sexton. It's like you're just mucking around with your spine is the worst possible thing that you can do, and especially when you were working. You were the most dominant team in the NRL, and now you're giving up opportunities, and we know that's what we talk about so much is the quality of opportunities and strangling your team, and they were the best at it, and now they're not. So
the question is as well, is Galvin even a halfback, or is he a better 5'8", really?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think that can be a whole other
episode for itself.
conversation of where you actually want to play him. But obviously, the future for them is playing him at halfback and playing Burton as your 6. So I think, like, going forward, if we want to look going forward of what do they do now with him, and how do they get back to the team that they were? Like, I feel with him in the team, they're never going to be the team that they were, because it's like they struggled sometimes in attack in certain periods of the game, and I think they're bringing in Lockie Galvin. You get more attack, but at the moment and at the stage of his career, you get mistakes and he forces things. So
yeah, they were a much
like,
more clinical team without
yeah,
him. They did stuff methodically, like
yeah, exactly right.
Penrith
And
were.
that's how you win the premiership. Like,
Yeah,
and then you got to have your superstar. Like, if you look at Penrith Panthers as the template of that. But is Lockie Galvin the superstar right now? I don't think so. He doesn't have the composure that Cleary
no,
had 5 years ago. Like,
no.
I don't know the age difference between them, but it must be sort of around that same time where Cleary started to emerge as this ice cold halfback already at in his early 20s. So
Well, I can see this
yeah,
playing out
like what do
possibly
you do if
as a
you
kind of
what do you do now?
Sharks. See it playing out as the Sharks, Nico Hines, Braden Trindle, but they mucked around for a lot of years there, trying to make Nico Hines a halfback, where he was a fullback and a 5'8", better.
Mm,
He runs the
mm,
ball, and then they finally kind of landed on this thing. But Nico Hines isn't a proper halfback. He's not a Nathan Cleary halfback or a Jamal Fogarty halfback or a
no.
Adam Reynolds halfback. And you're going to try and put Lockie Galvin into that mold now, where he's not that kind of guy, and have Matt Burton playing alongside him. You've got 2 5'8s essentially playing.
Mm,
I think it spells trouble for me.
yeah. So what do they do? Do you play him off the bench when they're at full strength? Are you playing Lockie Galvin off the bench and bringing him in, or
I don't have a solution, unfortunately. I don't think it's the right fit. I think they were working
mm,
well with Sexton,
mm,
with Burton, and with Bailey Hayward. Hayward, I think, offers more to the team in the way he plays than in
mm.
this constellation than what Galvin does. So cut him. Should have
That'd be
waited to the off
huge.
season.
Yeah, it's Gus getting greedy. I'm going to put
Yeah,
it all on Gus.
yeah.
Gus got greedy, wanted the talent, saw that there was an opportunity to snatch a guy from the West, and went for it and just put everything out of balance. One too many pieces of the puzzle,
Yeah.
and the puzzle doesn't work anymore.
No.
You can't. It's not finished. Can't do a 1,000-piece puzzle with 1,001 pieces, Gus.
No, you
Just
can't.
chill out, buddy.
You cannot. All right, let's move on to the AFL and my old Freo Dockers. Oh no, Freo. They're on the outside
Great
looking in.
headline.
They've fallen to 9th on the ladder. They were only in the top 8 for a short stint, but started pretty poorly. Lost the first 2 games of the season. Then they went on and had a bit of a run. They beat the Bulldogs. They thrashed West Coast and the Tigers. They've beaten
Beat the Suns
Adelaide.
too.
Sorry?
Beat the Suns as well.
Yeah, and beat GWS, almost beat Collingwood, thrashed Port Adelaide, thrashed Essendon, but then couldn't get it done against the Swans over the weekend. And now they also kind of are looking in down the barrel of a pretty tough run home. They got Hawthorn and Collingwood in the next 2 games. Bit of a reprieve playing against West Coast, but then it's Carlton, Port Adelaide, Brisbane, and finishing
But you
up
never
with the
know. You never know in the Perth Derby either. Like, they've been
no,
pushed even the last few years.
yeah.
It's been close. Some of those games.
So I mean, they're in a bit of a crux right now, and from my point of view, it's their eyes scratching itchy. Their team, their roster, and trying to force this Sean Darcy in the ruck, and it just feels like every time he's there and playing, the team doesn't play well. And Luke Jackson is just killing it wherever he plays at the moment, and I know it's just simple stuff, and it's been Freo for so long. They're just inconsistent in different times during the season and different areas on the field, and it just frustrates me. And they
Yeah.
don't deserve to be in a final. They don't deserve to be a contender for a premiership playing the way they do now.
Yeah. But are you being harsh on this subject because you're a Freo supporter and you're just
Absolutely.
disappointed with once again losing? Like, if in the scheme of it, yes, it was a. I think last weekend was a must-win game for Freo because of, like you said, now they've got Hawthorn and they've got Collingwood. All of a sudden, you lose those two games, which expected to lose, yeah, maybe, or like you got an excuse to lose those two games. But if they beat the Swans, and it's always a tough task to go to the SCG and play the Swans, even though the Swans haven't been that great at home this year. I think still always a tough task. But all of a sudden they're on 44 points, and we're talking about them in a different breath because in theory they're on the same amount of points as third.
Yeah.
So, but I think all of a sudden they lose these next two games, they can potentially be two wins out of the eight.
Yeah.
So, like, but I think you're right with the whole out of balance with in the ruck. Like, I think Luke Jackson has been an absolute phenomenon, and you need to have him as involved in each and every game as long as possible. And I think you lose that, and the players lose that too. Like, you're starting to lose the hard balls, you're starting to lose the hit outs, you're not even having that option. Like, his ability to be an attacking option inside 50 and is also like, it almost gets missed because how dominant he's sort of been through in the ruck and everything like that. But
Mm.
I think his ability to be like a goal scorer and be an option down there opens things up for them. And then you sort of lose that with Sean Darcy. So it's hard because you have a player like, I don't know, like, you have a player that should be in the team, but you've got a player that's being outperformed, and that was unexpected at the start of the season, I think.
Mm.
And now you're trying to almost force an issue, and then it throws things out of balance. A little bit like with the Bulldogs, if you want to make make it a relationship
Comparison.
between those two, it's like the comparison, because it sends things out of whack, and you're putting a player where other players around him have more confidence and play better when he's more involved. So, but I don't think it's be all or end all for Freo. They're going to be like the jump from 9th to 10th is their safety barrier. I think in the race for the finals is they don't have a lot of heat coming from under them, but
No.
you never know with the Sydney Swans, they can go on a run and put pressure. If Freo lose too, all of a sudden, what you're looking at, some of the Swans will be on 36 points. They're 1 win away. Goes
I
quick in
think
the AFL because of the 4 points.
when I did the write up on the Swans 2 weeks ago, I think it was pretty
Mm,
much the Swans needed to win every single game on their way home. Maybe they could drop one.
mm,
Now they've won two from two. So
mm,
it's like it's not impossible, but it's improbable that the Swans, win 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9 straight games, whatever it was at that time,
mm,
and manage the finals. What's more probable is that the other teams that are already inside the eight continue to win and make
mm,
it difficult or impossible for Freo to leapfrog them. And with the way that Freo win and lose as well, they don't create a lot of percentage points when they win their games because they win by small margins. So
yeah,
you see, with the Gold Coast, the Gold Coast and GWS, putting big scores on opposition teams quite
mm,
often. Their
yeah,
percentages are more likely to fluctuate in greater number in the positive aspect than what Freo will.
yeah.
So, they can end up on the same points as a Gold Coast or a GWS and be 20 percentage points out of it. So,
Exactly how it is now, in theory. Like,
yeah,
that's what they're looking at, and I think, yeah, I think we'll see a proper push from GWS coming into the finals run. I don't expect they'll be fighting for their life so much, but I don't know. It is an exciting top 9 if you look at it. It's going to be a really interesting run home. Besides Collingwood just crushing it, I think it is really wide open in the positioning of where anybody can finish. You lose 2 games in a row, and you're in trouble all of a sudden.
Yeah. Well, it's definitely exciting, and yeah, from second through to ninth, 1 win separating.
Yeah, 1.5 with the Lions and the draw. Like, yeah, it's nuts.
It's crazy. I don't remember having such a close kind of that tier of the ladder of the draw for a number of years. I don't know if, like, I was trying to pull up any of the stats that were kind of sticking out at me for Freo, but they're 16th in disposals. I don't think you can really do much about it at this point in the season. Marks inside 50, they're ranked 16th in the league. And that's a little bit to do with they're a low scoring team in general, and they don't often score their points by, lead up marks inside 50 and converting set shots. But you wouldn't expect them to be 16th with Tracy and Amos and Shai Bolton, and even when Luke Jackson goes forward, you think they'd probably be a little bit higher in that aspect.
But I think that's just been their problem, really. Like this whole year, and even bringing in Shai Bolton, it was all about, okay, now we're going to try and open up our attack. We've got our defensive structures. We need to be better in attack. And they're obviously not finding those chances or clean chances where they actually really wanted to improve. And that's and that's a telling tale. You might be getting the ball inside 50, but getting quality marks inside 50 is priceless, and having a set shot. So I think it just shows that they've failed in that aspect, and that's why they're still once again going to be fighting for their life come the later rounds of the year. And those games are a flip of the coin, because every team, or a lot of the teams are fighting for their life, especially this year. If you're playing against anyone in the top 9, they're fighting for either top 4 or top 8.
I think as a kind of parting or a final thought, they are, I think, the youngest team in the AFL, but you can't continue to fall back on that or continue to keeping the team young, because you're suddenly losing your window for Brayshaw and Sarong and Jackson and all the guys that have been around for a while and are in their peak right now. You can't wait for these young guys to catch up, because then you're going to either lose the players because if you can't afford to keep them, or they're just going to go past their peak, and then you're back to square one again. So yeah, I don't know. That's just
a long future thought. They missed the finals this week. If this year, do they go and try and pick up another gun midfielder or like half forward to create more attacking pressure, or what do they do? Otherwise, the window goes. You trade some draft picks. You trade some of a younger player maybe for
I don't actually
more quality and experience.
I don't think their problem is in their midfield or their forward line. I think it's the defensive back line and even the coaching, to be honest. I don't know whether the players are being utilised to their full potential the way that the game plan is. But I'm not good enough really to know that. So we'll see what happens.
Don't lie. You're selling yourself short.
All right. Let's wrap it up with some F1 talk. Piastri and Norris. Now, Norris took out his home GP for the first time in a wet race.
Calling bullshit.
Sorry?
Calling bullshit on that. I'm on the Piastri wagon. It was bullshit. It was always going to happen. It's a fairy tale. It's a fairy tale that needed to be outlived. I wrote in my write-up for Formula One, like the complete opposite. I bombed the whole weekend, but I said it was like Piastri will qualify better, and Norris. Well, first I said the bet was Norris will qualify better, Piastri will race better because Norris will crumble under the pressure of the actual race to win his home Grand Prix. that was the storyline. But it was almost the opposite. Piastri qualified better, and then Norris did what he had to do. But man, it was like the fairy tale of him. He come third last year, come second the year before, in the best car this year. It was like Norris or Hamilton were gonna win that race in reality. And I don't know, like that penalty was a monster.
Yeah.
It was a monster. Like I can't believe the stewards give out a 10-second penalty for something
When they
like
have the
that. And it's
opportunity
like
for a
with so many
5-second.
factors. Yeah. But there's like so many factors, and you can look at the penalty on the weekend. Right, he needed to be more careful because it was bad weather. But then you can also look at it. I don't know, for me, like, which you think that they should take into consideration is you also need more heat in your tires. He needed to make sure the safety car lights had just gone off. He needs to brake heavier because you need more heat, because when you're going to start, you need to have the right temperature. You've got to, and it was just like the timing of it, like right after he brakes, the car disappears. You got to, like, it didn't affect the race at all. Nobody crashed. And like ultimately the biggest penalty you can get is a 10-second like drive-through penalty. Like that's a monster.
Yeah.
And there's just like so much you need to take into consideration. They just throw that out and it just changed. Like even after he was 19 seconds ahead before the second safety car, before that safety car. Like he was dominating, he handled the conditions perfectly, and then you get that and it just changes everything. And it changes it's a 14-point swing in reality, because like in the championship, because he could have been up by 7, but now it's Lando's. Like, I don't know, scam. I'm calling conspiracy.
So there's 8 points between them now. Piastri on top, and we've had halfway. So we're 12 races down, 12 to go. And what I thought was interesting was that Piastri got on the radio and was like, "It's a shit penalty. You should give me back to position." And I think that kind of just gives a bit of an insight to what we can expect or what we can feel in terms of team orders or team racing, or how these two guys are gonna compete towards the end of the season. Because I don't think Red Bull, they haven't shown enough to tell me, okay, well, they're going to be a major force in the second half of the season. And I think Ferrari is stealing too much from each other. George Russell is there or thereabouts, but McLaren are too far out ahead for me. And it's going to be between these guys. And every single race, as you kind of just said, it's 7 points or 14-point swing in one race. If that happens again, then Lando's taking over the championship. So it's just so exciting to have this kind of battle and not really know, because the team hasn't said a lot. They're saying that they're going to race, and they're trying to keep a low profile as much as they can until the shit hits the wall. But
like they're going to have coming togethers, and there's going to be these team order battles like on the radio and stuff like that for sure. But I think one of the a word or an expression from one of Piastri's interviews was, he said when he was talking about how much faster he was, he's like, "Oh, I proved that I had the pace to the team." And I think that's like, if you think about that, I think that's how they're going to have to decide race in and race out. If they don't want these two guys clashing, it feels like, okay, the person that's the driver that starts the race the best and shows, all right, I've got I can go out, I can build a lead. I've got the race under control. It's my race. I think then that's how they're going to have to play team orders, because even over the last couple of rounds, like Lando crashed into Piastri a couple of rounds ago. Then they've had a couple of like really tight duels that have gotten extremely close. And I think as the longer the season goes and as close as they're going to get, it's almost, instead of just going, oh, go out and race and fight, they've got to be almost more careful, because it's going to cause an explosion within the team. Even if they're like, they don't have to worry about the Constructors' Championship. They probably don't even have to worry about who's going to come third. But those two drivers, you've got like winning mind. All you've ever done, all you have to do is win races your whole life. And now you got to start playing this team game. They're not built like that.
No.
It's not in them. In them, as much as they say it to the media, it's not there. They both are going to want to win, and they're going to come together. But I think they have to do this team orders in an aspect. Okay, whoever has that best first half of the race, that's it, because you guys are going to crash out, and all of a sudden you crash twice, and Max is up on second place's ass again, and it's. But maybe they don't care, because it's like, if I want to win the championship, I got to pass, I got to win these races and get away. They don't care about coming second. So
no.
It's gonna be wild by the end.
Do you think it comes down to one of the kind of last 2 or 3 races of the season before we see a championship emerge, a winner emerge?
Yeah, I think it'll go to the death.
Yeah.
I think McLaren is so far ahead of everybody else. So I think, like you said, the fight behind them is going to take away from any of those guys being able to get close enough to fight for the championship, even if there's a crash here and there for McLaren, like if there's a DNF, because they're gonna get, like, you tip them to every race.
Yeah,
I think they've shown basically on like every type of track, if you're fast tracks, high speed corners, low speed corners, they have a setup for it that's going to make them compete in qualifying and then compete in the race. And if they're not the fastest, they'll be second and third. So, like, I think they're always going to be tight, which will mean, it could go down to the final round.
Fireworks.
Right. Yeah.
All right. Well, let's wrap it all up.
Conspiracy theory of Formula One that it'll go down to a final round in an oil company's track right at the death.
Yeah, perfect.
That's right. For all the conspiracy theorists out there, Formula One is rigged.
Head over to bets.com.au to find all the perfectly written game previews by SportsPezJez and Tux Sports Takes. We'll be back here on Ahead of the Game with some more in the future. Jez, sign us out, buddy.
Hang with us and stay ahead of the game.